I'm going to set up our first swarm trap up at a tree for this year. Last year this worked for us and we had quite a good success with it. This is just a sheet of, I think, 12mm ply. Got a hole in the centre which I've just filled with wax at the moment. Now I normally use this if I'm uniting colonies and I quickly need to just unite colonies. I don't have any paper with me. There's one single 8mm hole drilled through the centre of it. So one bee at a time comes up, goes down, comes up and goes down. There's no fighting then. So all I've done is I've just shoved a little bit of wax in the middle of it, melted it in, and that sealed that hole. Keeps the light out, stops the draft coming through. That's going to sit on the bottom. I've got a strap here so I can lift that straight on top, over the top. Standard wire mesh floor with just the standard entrance block. Now you can turn this one way or the other, large entrance, or you can flip it, have a smaller entrance. Makes no odds to me really, but if you have a larger entrance you'll get more in. And also if you see the swarm arriving, you can just pop that out and they can all climb in a little bit faster. Now I use the wire mesh floor because I can seal this back off when it sits up against the board that it's going to be on. Now if I put some tape across here, bees aren't going to get underneath the wire mesh, and they're also not going to be stuck on the sticky side because they can't get to it. And the reason for that is when it's occupied, before I even lift it down, I can take the tape off, slide a Varroa board underneath. I can also treat, and I can do an oxalic acid sublimation if I need to. There's going to be no brood because there's going to be a swarm. So I can just inspect the colony is one method for health. So that's going to sit on that board. I've taped off this back side so there's going to be no air coming through or no light coming through. And then they're going to get a super, just the standard national super. It doesn't matter what orientation it is, whether it's upside down or the right way, it makes no difference. The only thing you may want to think of is the water running off that lip, that's all. Because that is just an empty space. So when the brood box goes on, the warmer way for me, it just gives them space to hang on the underside of the frames. Now how I would do this, or how I do this, that being the warmer way, so the frames act like a baffle coming through, although they are hollow because they're empty, or the cold way would just allow the bees to enter straight underneath the frames that they want to, but this way they have to cross underneath all of the frames. But at the same time it acts like a baffle for any draft coming in if it's fully open. The first frame for me is in the second space, and that's just a wax foundation frame, which is an old one from probably the outside edge of a brood box. It hasn't been used, and all I've done is I've just melted the top a little bit just to freshen this edge up. Super frame, which is empty, another super frame, two brood frames together, and then there's a drawn out frame which has been used before. Big hole in the centre just allows them to go through. Two more national brood frames, and then two super frames, again empty. So that gives them something underneath where there has been wax on the underside to build off if they need to. Well, they will need to, but if they want to, they can. But also, because it's a castellated rail on the side here, when I lift that into the tree, the frames aren't going to slide around or lock. So it's going to be a nice uniform waxed pattern if they do draw out inside and use the frames. Now last year when we did it, the first one we caught just built down through the centre here. And that doesn't bother me because I lifted it straight out and lifted it straight back on to a new national frame for them, or a national box for them. So that's going to sit on the top. I'm going to put in a lure, which is just going to be a little rubber glove with a little bit of tissue inside, loosely tied at the top and then hanging from a frame, and that's just going to have a few little drops of lemongrass oil in the top of that, which is a bit of a lure for them. Now if you hang that from the back, to get it out without disturbing them, you just need to push the crown board away, pull the bag out, and you slide the crown board back on again, so you haven't opened them, you just don't disturb them. But I normally hang it on the back here. which also means for them to get to it, they've got to pass through the whole box. So then get a crown board with the B space on the underside, because the frames sit on the top of the box. I leave these open, the holes in the top as well, just a little bit of ventilation. And there's ventilation in the roof as well. It's just a standard 4-inch telescopic lid. And that's it. I'll strap it with a ratchet so it's nice and tight, so I don't disturb it. I don't have to take the box apart or move the box, dislodge it when I lift it down. And also from the hook as well, I'll hang another strap from that and then tie it into the tree. So I can use this hook and that strap to lower it as I'm bringing it down from the tree. For the lure, it's just lemongrass oil on a bit of tissue, and that tissue then goes in the bag. If you just leave the tissue in plain and dry, it will evaporate, it'll dry off, it'll give off less vapour. But if you put it in a bag and just loosely secure it or fasten it or tie it, wrap it, any moisture that evaporates is going to stay within the bag and it'll just last a little bit longer on that tissue. And you just tuck it in there. The other end's open, so the bees will come in the entrance. To get to it, they've got to pass underneath all of that, be attracted by it to get to the back of it. And then you just drop a little bit, if I can get that off, on the tops of the frames, and then just a little bit on the entrance.